So, a week before President elect Donald Trump's inauguration in Washington, D.C., let's take a look at the Chinese economy and the challenges it poses to the USA and to the rest of the world. So, recently a report came up that said China had a $1 trillion trade surplus with the world, with the rest of the world, $1 trillion. Now, out of which I think it had about the same amount of trade surplus comparatively with the EU, the USA, and with the ASEAN countries. Now, countries like India also suffer a trade deficit. China has about $100 billion of trade surplus with India, for example, which essentially the Chinese sell about 4 to 5 times more stuff from India than they buy. Indian exports have stagnated around 18 to $19 billion for 5 years or so. Despite all the attempts to increase local production and decrease imports from China, India has miserably failed. So is the case with other countries too. Now, the trade loading a trade deficit ha- can be done in two ways. You stop buying or buy a lot less, or you produce a whole lot more internally in your country locally that would meet some of the demands of the local people so as to reduce the pressure to import from China. So the USA's trade deficit or China's trade surplus, the has had a very high level in the last few months, especially in November and December 2024. Uh, Again, it has to be remembered that the local consumption in China is getting a lot less. So the country is poised to not only export a lot of junk to the rest of the world, to dominate manufacturing and export of manufactured high value products all over the world. That domination um, is actually going to continue despite all attempts by EU and USA, for example. So, what can President Trump, when he takes office, achieve, really achieve in say, in the next 4 to 5 years? Now, China has complete monopoly worldwide on solar panels. So, if any country wants to go green and rely upon solar panels, solar energy as the means, is completely dependent upon China for its solar panels, related technologies, related components, batteries, for example. So, weaning oneself away from fossil fuel is not a trivial task. And it can't be done today or in the next decade, for example, without China being involved and the dependency of China continuing. So, coming back to AI leadership, you can plan all you want, but without sufficient energy, so, AI farms suck in a lot of energy. And if you want to depend upon solar energy to meet those demand, uh, back to square one, Chinese solar panels. Alternatively, you could try wind farms and so on, but that's not much of a replacement to solar panels or fossil fuel. Now, if you were to build nuclear power plants, it could take a whole decade to build enough to create enough power to feed into the solar farms, to the AI data centers that are about to come all over the world. The energy needs of these AI based um, data centers or servers, farms, or whatever you call it, this new infrastructure are immense. Just as the crypto world needed a lot of power. So does the AI world going to be requiring a lot of power sources, new energy sources. And building nuclear plants takes a lot of years, a lot of money, and a lot of political will. So, how can President Trump also address the critical components that China produces for the pharmaceutical industry, or even the automotive industry, or manufacturing or industrial tools? Uh, there's such dominance in those fields by China. Um, put slapping tariff on it help. Um, you can't slow down Chinese growth right away because the local consumption in China is really low. They're not been able to increase local consumption despite attempts. For all you know, the population in China is barely a billion people. The Chinese data on its population growth or lack thereof is minimal, not reliable. So, slowing down Chinese growth is only possible, reducing Chinese dominance is only possible if you stop buying from them. But can any country's industrial sector do well if they stop buying from China or start paying for higher tariffs, say 10% or 20% or whatever, and hope to do well in their domestic markets or international markets? So, reducing trade deficits by tariffs is probably what President Trump will try. How successful that will be uh, for its domestic consumers is questionable. Cutting off technology to China is another thing President Trump will try. You can try to cut off technology transfers to China, but that only works if China doesn't have the technology or doesn't have enough expertise in it. um, Even from AI or some leading edge technologies, um, like chip manufacturing and holding off ASML and other products from getting into China could dent its progress a little bit. But how long will China be deficit, suffering from lack of technology, is a hard thing to answer. So it's not easy for President Trump to achieve his goals vis-a-vis China. Um, Tariffs, stopping trade, or reducing reliance on China. Um, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be an interesting 5 years, and we'll see how successful he'll be starting on January 20th. So buckle up. We'll have some questions to be looking out for, some answers that will be coming towards those questions. Uh, it's going to be a tough battle for President Trump to win over China and see if he can make a dent in the trade surplus of China, for example, or in stopping technology from going towards China. Reducing dependency on Chinese imports is an uphill task. So let's wish him luck.